What's on, where, and when. It's the Talk of Nelson. Talk Nelson Radio.
Welcome to Football Focus, where we cover all things football in the top of the South. I'm Chris Butler, and welcome back to my co-host, Paul Brodden. Good to see you here, mate.
Yes, all good, Mr. Butler, yes.
Should be a happy coach. And we welcome a football legend from Golden Bay, the mayor of Golden Bay, in actual fact, Phil Smith. Great to have you here, mate.
That's so good to be here. Oh, the beer. Yeah.
Mate, it's been a long time coming. We've been hoping that you'd be able to make the trip over the hill. So
plenty of comments come from Golden Bay.
Well,
do they?
Quite a bit, actually. They're quite proactive on that front.
Especially we don't pick you to win.
Yeah, you just keep doing that, man.
No.
It's good incentive.
That's right. Good for the pre-match chat. On this week's show, we talk senior men's and women's local premiership, Southern League men's and women's league. We've also got overseas news, the FIFA Women's World Cup and the English Premiership. But first, Nelson Pines Senior Women's Premiership and the Golden Bay Mighty Shield Maidens, 7-1 over Marpur, Phil. So something in the water this week.
Yeah, 7-1 probably doesn't really reflect the game. I reckon Marpur would have put up a strong fight, and between Kate, who is phenomenal and recently engaged, congratulations.
Oh,
yeah. And Donna, Marpur have always brought the best out of these girls. So, being 4-0 up at half time, it just blew my mind.
Yeah.
So,
fourth on the table. They're above Golden Bay.
Yeah, I think we've just really hit our groove. The women's team have just done really well this year, and I can't commend them enough. They've just when Bridie over here is like, no, they won't win. I show that to the women's team, and I'm like, prove them wrong.
And look what's been happening.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's look at the draw for this week. Motueka AFC Angels taking on Spriggan-Fern Tahuna Breakers. And we're actually going to throw that one to you, Phil, because we'll get Bridie to do the next one. Angels.
I love the Angels, and they're always cool to be around and positive. And the Breakers, generally, they're always quite a dominant team, and I think both these teams are sort of quite even this year. So I'm going to go with a draw.
A draw?
Because I'm trying to be diplomatic here.
You see the spot we're in when we have to make the hard calls?
Yeah.
Difficult, So
it's a tough one, isn't it? It's really, I don't want to upset people.
No.
I mean, I think the Angels have had a really hard year.
They have, but they've been turning up every week, and that's the thing.
Absolutely.
Hardly ever seen a default, which is fantastic.
No, and they will keep going to the very end. I probably would be leaning towards the Breakers. That's where I'll be sitting.
Here's the next one, Bridie, the Golden Bay Shield Maidens.
Come on, mate.
Taking on Hot House Crowd of Richmond Foxes at the Takaka Rec Ground. It is at the Rec Ground.
This is Slotsy's team. The champions.
And I've got a lot of love for the Foxes. They know that. They know I love them to pieces. They're pretty much the sisters.
But it is away at the rec centre.
All I'll know is that they will be looking forward to travelling over the hill to play Golden Bay because they love competitive games. And the Shield Maidens will give them a competitive game, but I will pick the Foxes to win this game because I know for a fact they will want to go unbeaten this year.
Yeah.
So, but look, it won't be easy. And, you got a, soft turf over there, get stuck into them. You never know.
Could be the upset of the year.
That's it.
Okay, now we've got Sasha's team, Phil, so I'm going to put the heat on you. You're going to be in trouble now. FC Nelson Wahine taking on Nelson Suburbs FC Swans at Neil Park.
The Swans have always been formidable.
They had a big one last week, didn't they?
They're very much very talented group of players.
Oh, no, they had the bye last week. So
I don't think they're the same Swans this year as what they have been in the past.
Well, we talk about who turns up week in, week out, and a lot of them are mothers and they have children, so it's a busy lifestyle. So,
as much as I love Sasha, she's wonderful, and Wahine are a great team, and the same. They turn up week in, week out, and I think they promote women's football amazingly. I would probably have to say the Swans will take the edge on that one.
Well, in the first round, Wahine beat them 3-0. I actually refereed the first half, and they actually played really well that day, the Wahine.
Yeah. Oh, they've definitely got it in them.
Yeah, well, yeah,
I really think
got a couple of young players there. My
that was
daughter.
very.
Well,
I think that was like in the first round as well.
Yeah.
And I think both teams have come a long way since then. But I think the Swans are really out to sort of get redemption. And
well, Sasha will be on the phone tonight, Phil. Nelson, Diamonds versus the Mapua Cougars at the Botanics. So, Cougars will be looking to come back from last week, but the Diamonds, good side.
Well, they are a good side.
Very competitive.
Matt's got them fit this year, and I was actually texting him the other day. He was a bit disappointed that FC had 2 teams in this league this year, but that decision was made well before Christmas. And he felt that if they had just had one team, they'd be a lot more competitive and could go on to win the league. But who knows now, because it's not happened that way.
Well, you always talk about participation. You've got to give people a go. If we've got enough players for 2 teams, why not?
Well, it's about, we talked about the current setup of that league, and maybe it should be split top 5, bottom 4, but there's no easy fix. It is what it is. And as I keep saying week in and week out, the bottom teams like the Wahine and the Tahunas and the Mots, you will improve playing against better players. And I know that for a fact because I coach. So I think the league's been great. But on this game, Diamonds at home at Botanics, you'd have to go the Diamonds.
FC Nelson Wahine versus the Hothouse Creative Richmond Foxes. That's a catch-up game.
23rd that's being played.
Yes, that's on a Wednesday. So presumably that's what, at Richmond? Under lights?
Must be, I'd say so. Or it actually could be at North Road on our training pitch.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Because it's fully lit.
Oh, actually, Neil Park.
Yeah. Well,
it's got. But I don't know where on that. No lights there.
No lights.
So who are we picking? I'll give that to you. The Wahine versus Hothouse Creative Richmond
I think
Foxes.
the same deal as what you're saying about the Shield mating game. The Foxes aren't going to want to lose.
No.
They're and they're not even, the goal difference isn't even important for them. They just want to win.
Yeah.
They don't care what, it could be a 1-0 and they'll take it. I'll go with the Foxes on that one.
Sasha's really going to call you tonight. So the table being the Hothouse Creative Richmond Foxes 39, Get Cars FC Diamonds 34, and the reserves going to ride on 31, and actually the Cougars and the Maidens not too far behind mid-table. So, and just on that comment, top 4, top 5, bottom 4. I mean, you do get games where potentially FC Angels are taking on the Breakers. I mean, they're both at the bottom of the table. That's an even game. So you do get your even games. It's, okay, you're not going to win the league every year, but how do you get there?
I think,
Golden Bay, they were thrust into First Division 1 year. I used to play against Parksy, and they were a tough side. They were a tough side to play against.
Last year, the Shield Maidens were Division 1. We wanted to take that challenge. The team voted, move up to Division 1, give it a crack. It was a really hard season. The first round, very much losses after losses after losses. You've got to change your perspective. Like it's no longer, if you're a second division team playing a first division team, it's not about the scoreline. It's about different sort of, what's the score going to be at halftime? Yeah. How are we going to do it differently from last time we played?
Did we win the second half?
Yeah. So, a win is a different thing. Absolutely.
You need to adapt. You need to train harder. You need to work harder. You need to be smarter to play against these better sides.
And you learn so much. So from the start of last season with the Shield Maidens in Division 1 to the end of the season, 2 different teams.
Yeah.
It was night and day difference on how they played, how they passed, how they performed, their attitudes, everything. Everything changed. And I think it was probably the best thing for them was Division 1. I mean, a lot of people.
A lot of young girls on the side this year too, haven't you?
Yeah.
Hard to keep them there when they leave school, they go to varsity and stuff.
Well, that's it. I mean, you hope for a gap year with some of them.
Yeah, true.
The original captain of the Shield Maidens, Ali, she was phenomenal as a striker. She could hammer a ball into the back of the net. She perfect leader. I would have her as a prime minister. And she's now over in America doing Camp America and living the best life. And happy birthday, Ali. And it's those sort of things that happen in the Bay that we struggle with is retention. We get those one season hit wonders like we did, this year. We got some that came in for the Goats.
Yeah.
Really helped us perform in Division 2. Do we have them next year?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, well, I guess that's something that happens region-wide. Nelson Pine Men's Premiership Division 1, and the season was concluded. Congratulations, Bridie.
Thank you.
Title winners. Well done, mate. You must be
a smile, eh?
Well, yeah.
Get a photo of that.
It was a tough road, wasn't it?
Well, it was. The last 2, we won 12 in a row. Then the last 2, we sort of had 2 draws. But look, I don't know. It's just all came down to the one on Saturday against Rangers. Did we change anything? Probably we did a wee bit, but did they come to play? They certainly did. They're a good side, and they only lost to once, and that was when we beat them over there. So we worked hard this year. Our boys did well. We at the start of the season, I remember a month before the season, we're down at Neil Park. I had 5 players.
Yeah, right.
Because the Chin United were forming, Karenni were forming, Locos are doing their own thing, and but luckily with the help of Rob Anderson at the Boys College, we managed to. And we had the academy set up. We managed to get the college boys in, and we just chipped away at players like Billy Scott and Toto, the big Argentina boy, Walter Avalos, we got from suburbs. So, yeah, we got there in the end, and then we trained hard. And the good thing about this year, I don't think we had too many rained out. The weather's been good this year, so we're allowed to train all the time. And of course, the girls' college let us use their turf. We could use the boys' college turf. So the facilities were there. The boys worked hard. And we got there in the end.
It's great having that Nelson College turf as a secondary option because it was always NMIT, wasn't it? So let's just look at the results. Reserves 3-2 over Locomotive. So Locomotive just couldn't get that win. They were hoping for.
They finished with a point, didn't they? They had a draw against Richmond a couple of weeks ago. So yeah.
Of course, we've talked about the FC Nelson Rangers game, and congratulations to Rangers because they did take it to the wire, and it was only 1 point at the end of the day, so hard luck to them, but I'm sure they gave everyone a good run for their money and a good team, and they've had to travel over.
It is what it is.
But there's no sympathy from the FC Nelson coach over here. Spring and Foon Tahuna 6-2 over the Seals. They'll be happy, and probably a good sum up for their season because they've actually performed pretty well, haven't they?
And like I remember at the president's meeting, they didn't really want to be in Division 1.
Yeah.
And it reminds me very much of last season with Motueka. They weren't keen to be in Division 1 last year. And, they've done really well this year. They've turned up and kept going, and they got some results, which...
No, Tahuna have punched well above their weight. Look, Gary Walton was out there coaching them. They got, I think, 2 or 3, 4 senior teams. So there's players there. And as Phil said, they didn't really want to be in it. They bit the bullet. Competed, and look what they got. They played 14, won 4, drew 3, lost 7. So
I saw them at Victory Square playing Chin.
Yeah,
and they're a very well formed team. They can move the ball around. They can defend really well. And I think if they get the chance next season, hopefully they stay in there. And
well, they'll
make more of a mark.
They've certainly proved they can compete with
100%.
The top sides, and
they've got that core there of Isaac Taylor, Josh Johnson, Seth. I can't remember the other guys. They had a guy up front this year. He played really well. He's played higher level somewhere else. Look, there's players will always come to town for jobs or whatever that don't want to be committed to sort of these other teams, but quite happy like Tahuna if they train once a week sort of thing. And so they should always be there. But as you say, next year's a different year.
Garden Motel Motueka 2-2 with Richmond, so Motueka would be pretty happy with that. And we know that on their day they can be a very tough side to beat. So Fresh Choice Richmond had a strong finish to their season, but couldn't quite get the win against Motueka. But must have been a tight match.
Where did they come last year? The Richmond first.
They were up there. They would have been third, probably. Yeah.
Yeah, they did have the same issue. I was talking to, I think he might be the president. He plays walking football,
Mr. Sibbald,
and he was just saying that just how many kids leave for university or whatever. They do get cleaned out quite regularly. But this was an improving side. They're a young side, and they had some good results, especially against Bridie's team. But Motueka. They've shown at times too they can beat anyone in the league.
Well, I was talking to Clinton Bloomfield yesterday, and he's a bit concerned about next year losing players. They lost a couple of young players this year, but and I said to him, and I always go back to the grassroots level, the high schools.
Yeah,
who's at your school? And I just think since Nelson Bay's football was sort of on our own, we're sort of merged with mainland. We need to get these coaches going to the Mott High schools, going to the Waimea colleges, and identifying talent and getting playing the game.
We had a strategy meeting over in the Bay.
Same with Golden Bay.
And the big thing that came up is, can we work with the schools more? And essentially we've already got like Collingwood Area School is just football crazy.
Oh, really?
Absolutely football crazy. The fields are just full of football posts and at lunchtime that's all they do is play football. And Golden Bay High very much the same. Tarka Primary very much the same. What I think would be really cool in this region is to get a really good competitive weekday high school football competition going like they do in Canterbury. It doesn't have to be on the same scale, but let's just promote their football during the week through the schools and have a good school competition and get more in. So that way on the Saturdays, we've got that pathway.
And it might not have to be every week. It might be every so often just have a.
Well, I think they do that for the colleges now to qualify for the secondary schools tournaments because Nelson we're playing with Marlborough.
Yeah.
And I think Waimea and Nayland. Let's see, but there's no Mott High School or Golden Bay High School. Maybe Mott, Golden Bay, Collingwood could combine and get something like I don't know.
Totally.
Something.
So
some days it's not about the results, just get them playing.
Yep.
And they'll improve. That's what it's all about.
So the final standings: CN Financial FC Nelson 38, Rangers 37, 1 point in it. That's what it came down to. And Nelson Suburbs reserves. Well done to them, young side. A good skill level. They were well ahead in third, and Motueka, Tahuna, Richmond, Seals, and Locomotive. Southern League women and Otago University beat University of Canterbury 2-1. Nelson Suburbs 5-1 against Kashmir Tech. Tough match for them. And you having to catch that match, Bridie?
Yes, I did. Well, I went out and watched Christchurch United Suburbs, and I watched the Suburbs Kashmir Tech girls game, and they started really, really well. I can't remember the girl that scored. She scored an absolute screamer. She must have been about 20 odd metres out, well outside the 18-yard box. Boom, straight in the back corner. And they were doing really well. And then I'm not too sure what the problem is there. They just seem to drop off their, I wouldn't call it attitude because they're all trying hard. I think because they're a young team. And these other teams are a bit more experienced. But Kashmir Tech, player for player, and the way they're set up, weren't much better.
Yeah.
But they just seemed to last the distance. We actually left about 20 minutes to go, and then it was the floodgates started to open. So, look, as I said, that's a learning curve this year with Giza. It's good to have them in that league.
Yeah.
It's a great opportunity for them. But they just, long as they learn from it, and no doubt they will, they should be better next year.
Doesn't get any easier. Coastal Spirit, they're taking on at English Park on Saturday. So,
it's very much like I was saying before, like you've got to change your perspectives.
Yes.
Like it was always going to be a hard ask for these girls.
Yeah.
And I think it's really awesome that they're like sponsoring them is I'm so proud to be a sponsor for that team.
Yeah.
And it's awesome for this region. And I think if we can get all the clubs sort of on board backing this and supporting us, this is only going to grow.
Yeah.
And you've
got to start somewhere, and you've got to get that experience. Kashmir Tech taking on Universities of Canterbury. Well, you'd probably have to say Kashmir Tech there, Bridie.
Well, yeah, this must be 2 games to go, is it? Suburbs have got 2 games. So, yeah, I know you picked Tech there.
Cash Tech ahead on 22, Coastal Spirit on 13, so Cash Tech well ahead. Dunedin City Royals pretty close with Coastal Spirit, and then Otago, Canterbury,
but as I said,
Nelson.
There wasn't a lot in that game. Especially in the first half, it was quite even. I think, in fact, the first couple of goals the Tech girls were basically mistakes, which at that level you can do, and they're not bulletproof, but there wasn't much between it. Just as the second half wore on, the girls tired, or just the mental thing switching off and stuff like that. I don't know, but
bit of composure.
Yeah. Anyway,
if we look at the Southern League men and the draw, results. Dunedin City Royals lost 4-1 Kashmir Tech. Selwyn United 2-1 to Green Island. Nomads went down 4-1 to Coastal Spirit. Ferramy Bay 6-1 over FC20, and Nelson Suburbs tough day at the office. Christchurch United going down 6-1. Happened to see that game?
Yeah, well, I got there a wee bit late because I was a bit dusty, and the game kicked off at 11:30, and there was a couple of mistakes earlier on from Suburbs, but I was a bit disappointed with Suburbs on Sunday. I thought, looking at Christchurch United, one of the top sides in the country, I don't think. Look, Matt Todd Smith plays them. They're sort of he's playing left wing. They went 2 down, and you just see the heads dropping. they've lost a few players suburbs and a lot of young guys out there, and in the end they just got overrun a wee bit second half. But look, great opportunity to turn them over, but wasn't to be.
Just a couple of games this week. Nomads taking on Kashmir Tech. That's at Tulip Park.
Tulip Park, yeah.
Tulip Park, sorry.
Yeah.
So Nomads, well, Kashmir Tech have to be the favourites there, wouldn't
Tech will win that, son.
Green Island taking on Dunedin City Royals.
Well, that's a big derby game down in Dunedin.
Yeah.
You'd say the Royals there, I would say.
The table looking like, and it's really cementing the top two. Christchurch United on 43, Kashmir Tech 35. They look as though they're going through to the national divisions. Overseas news, and just when we were saying Harry Kane, looks like Harry Kane's going to be staying in the Premiership, bang, just before the whistle blows on the first game of the season, he's on the bench for Bayern Munich.
They lost, didn't they?
They lost.
Well, that German Cup final.
Yes. So he's going over there for titles, and he didn't quite get his first one.
Yeah.
Was it?
Well,
was it 200 million or something stupid?
Big Ange did say, I read an interview and he said, well, he was always going. But they just.
Well, apparently he was on his way to it's all rumour, but I heard that he was driving to the airport and they said, hold the phone. So he had to go to a relative's home and hang out there for a little bit before then getting on the plane. So even up to the last minute, there was still negotiations going on.
Wire. There's too much money involved for the minute.
And he didn't really want to go. But I think what they were saying was that...
Well, he still had a year left at Tottenham.
He did, but what he thought, if he went now, Tottenham would get money. If he becomes a free agent, they wouldn't get any money. So I think at the end of the day, he thought, I'm going to do the right thing for the club and make sure they get a good fee for me. So he's a club man. He's a Tottenham man through and through. So, and they're all saying, well, he can still come back and get the record.
Well, he's not going to. I can't see him breaking Shearer's record.
No,
he's on. Shearer's got 260 odd.
Well, they interviewed Shearer.
Kane's on what, 220 or something.
They interviewed Shearer, and they all said, were you helping him with his packing? And he said, I would have flown him there if I could, but no. But Shearer said no, he's still got time to come back. But yeah, it's going to be a tough.
Well, the best one this morning I heard is that Harry Maguire's still starting at Man United. Because West Ham refused to pay the 30 million. They said he's not worth it. They offered him 20.
I thought he was off.
Man.
No.
I thought he was off.
He was on the bench yesterday for Man United against Wolves along with McTominay. And I heard on the radio this morning on SENZ that West Ham said, we're not paying 30 million for him. We'll give you 20. And they said, no. So the deal was off at the moment. So poor old Harry. Not wanted.
He's had a rough time, doesn't he?
Well, have you seen the clips of him making mistakes?
Everyone has seen clips of him. But I mean, he's also done some really great things too.
But look,
and it's just
it make my side
when when he does do really dumb things,
they look really bad.
Really dumb things.
Yeah. Especially at that level.
Yeah. I mean, it's a hard one because he's got to front the press afterwards as well.
Well, the thing is, he actually plays well for England. And Southgate tends to stick by him. He always picks him in there, and he does well. But I think it's for United, he's just been hot and cold, and
I mean, he's been great for the memes.
Yeah. He's good on the ball.
Yeah,
but he just gives it away too much. I don't know. It's just sometimes you feel a bit sorry for him, and then I don't know. It's just
Champions League. Rangers book a PSV playoff spot for the Champions League. So So after Celtic having some success, Rangers knocking on the door now. And how about this? Neymar.
Well, I heard he's getting 274 million a year. That can't be right, can it?
That's what we get paid for this podcast, isn't it?
Exactly.
It's almost reaching our fees.
Yeah.
Al Hilal, we've heard that name quite a bit. Complete signing of Neymar from Paris Saint-Germain. So Neymar is off to the Saudi Arabian League.
That's just getting out of control, Phil. What do you think?
Again, it's just chasing the money.
Oh, yeah.
And that's where the money is.
Yeah.
I mean, surely Neymar, isn't it, in the twilight of his career? There's still some left in Neymar.
No, but they're building this league up in Saudi Arabia to be a competitive league. And
that's the alternative.
That's it. They're saying this is the league to watch now, sort of thing. So, and it'll obviously with the Saudi players playing in it as well, it'll make the national team stronger with these other good players coming in. So there's method in the madness, but the money is mad.
Have you seen some of those games over there?
Well, I watched Firmino. He got a hat trick in his first game, and it looked easy. So
It kind of looks like a cake recipe.
yeah,
They're just continuously doing the same stuff,
yeah,
and I found it quite boring.
yeah, it's certainly
Fair.
not. It's not European League stuff. Because Firmino actually, no one was marking. He got a hat trick. Well, when was the last time we got a hat trick for Liverpool? He couldn't even make the Liverpool side. So he's over there. So it is easy. So, but it's a bit sad, to be honest. I just think the money's just out of control. And but how you stop it, I've got no idea. Yeah,
No,
You can't
money
regulate
talks.
it or anything.
no, money talks.
You know, it's like the the alternative golf tournament or league. Live Golf, and that's what they call it. The players are going there. It's because of the money.
But the next statement's a good one. Phil Thompson won't like that.
I know. I was just
Kevin
thinking
De Bruyne.
of Phil. Kevin De Bruyne out for 4 months and may need surgery.
They
What
might
is
have
it?
to call Phil up.
Yeah, it's a hamstring.
Right. Yeah, well, he came off in that game with a hamstring, and he's had hamstring problems leading up to the season. So I don't know what else is going on, but they're talking surgery. So
Well, I run around these days. I don't think I've got any hamstrings left.
You're good for Masters football then.
Oh, not sure about that.
Masters football, you don't need tendons or anything.
No. Walking football. That's probably my.
well,
limit
that's
these days.
see, I tried to suggest
Yeah,
to
no,
him and
talked
Phil,
about-
and they just turned their nose up at it.
Old Stewie brought walking football over to Golden Bay.
Yeah.
And let's give it a crack. Mate, no, it's bloody hard.
There
Like,
you go.
one, you need self-discipline.
Yeah,
Yes, that's
And
true.
two, you've got to read the game a lot better. Like, you've got to be able to pass it as they're walking onto it.
yeah.
And you can't just go in for a slide tackle.
No, there's none of
You
that.
can't tackle from
tackling.
the side. Like,
Pass
it's
and
just-
walk.
Yeah.
Pass and work, and he can't that thing about always trying to thread the needle and put someone in.
Mm.
I don't know how many times last week I lost the ball because I was trying to do that. It's got to be to feet.
I reckon walking football is the
Hard.
perfect way to train.
Yeah.
Like, perfect.
English Premiership, and let's just whiz through the draw. We'll talk about a couple of games, but the draw is Nottingham Forest taking on Sheffield, Luton Town taking on Burnley. So the two sides that are entering into the Premiership taking themselves on, but that's postponed. So I'm not too sure what's happening there.
Mm.
Liverpool taking on Bournemouth, Wolves taking on Brighton. That'll be a tight match. Another tight one, Fulham and Brentford. Tottenham taking on Man U. So we'll see where Tottenham sit against one of the big leaguers. Man City taking on Newcastle, probably the game of the round in my
Yeah.
books. Aston Villa taking on Everton. West Ham versus Chelsea, and Crystal Palace versus Arsenal. So we'll talk about Man City and Newcastle first. Did you catch that game against Aston Villa? 5-1 probably wasn't really a reflection of the score because Aston Villa actually started off pretty well, but that second half, Newcastle
Well, I
just
worked-
all over them.
I work with a lad, Ollie Tissington. You might know him. He's Tahuna. He's a Villa fan. He loves Villa. And he said it, and he's dead right. They played a high line. When coaches talk about a high line, Newcastle pushed up far too far, and they just got them through square balls, just got them on the break every time. And, of course, Villa have lost Tyrone Mings, England defender.
Yeah.
He looks like he's done a serious knee injury, so he's going to be
Mm.
out for the season. But they've signed that guy Torres from Villarreal or somewhere, or Atletico Madrid. So, yeah, no, great start for Newcastle because I thought they might have had their honeymoon period last year, but that was a
No,
great
they look-
result. They look sharp.
They did. And if anyone plays them at home, they said that it's just not a nice place to play.
They signed that young boy who played in midfield, Italian lad, scored a great goal first start, attacking midfielder. So
Oh, yes, that's right. Yeah.
Tontali or someone.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
got him from AC Milan.
Yeah. And he's adapted pretty
Yeah.
well. So who do you support in the English league?
So, very torn. So, for women, I'm West Ham and Newcastle.
Oh, Newcastle.
Yeah.
Oh, so this has been right up your alley then.
No, I mean, it was for a while Leicester City, and that's purely because of my mum.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, Newcastle.
Ah. And where does that come from? Just always like them,
I
or does it come from?
As it-
You like the colour.
Like the colour, yeah. No, just the tops looked amazing, and no, I think they do play really awesome football.
Yeah, they do.
And I remember watching them growing up and thinking, man, I want to be like that.
Yeah.
And it's just
So
always
Alan
stayed with
Shearer days was that
me.
those days?
Yeah. And it's just always stayed with me, and I just can't I don't really tell anyone, and now the whole world's going to know.
Yeah.
Because I quite like sort of poking other people. Like if it's a Man U player, it's like, oh, no, I'd go Man City. So it's, it's like that old Holden forward kind of argument. If someone likes a Holden, I'd always pick a forward. If someone likes a forward, always go for a
Just to
Holden.
poke
Yeah,
the bear.
Yeah.
You should have been on Phil Thompson's show when he was here. So Man City have started off as per last year, but this is going to be a really interesting match, isn't it? I mean, Newcastle are away, but it's not going to be easy for Man City.
Oh, look, man, you'd have to fancy Man City. I think if you're going to get an opportunity to beat them, it'll be early in the season. This is the time to get them, but they're so clinical. They turned over Burnley last week as though they weren't there, even though Burnley played quite well. So I watched a bit of the game, but Man City just keep the ball moving. They just
More hungry, eh?
Yeah, and they got Haaland up front. He's just half a sniff. He's a handful.
He's a monster.
Yeah, he's a beast.
Absolute monster. That man can kick a ball.
But I would go Man City. Personally, I just think, yeah.
Well, we know which one you're going for.
Yeah, like you're probably right, but I'd still go Newcastle. Like,
Well, let's hope.
yeah, you never know.
We live in hope.
Sorry about that, Phil Thompson. Chatham Cup, and it's the semi-final. In actual fact, Christchurch United taking on Eastern Suburbs, and Melville United taking on Waterside Karori.
Well, it'll be a tough one for Christchurch. I'm not sure where Eastern Suburbs lie because all those Auckland teams are strong. That's the pinnacle of New Zealand football. That's where the numbers are.
Power numbers.
That's the population. So they'll be difficult. But United, I'd love to see them get in the cup final. They haven't. No one's beaten them this year. So I'd say Eastern Suburbs will be fancying their chances. Have you seen Christchurch United set up?
Yeah,
Amazing.
I went and seen Christchurch United Cash Tech last year.
Yeah.
And it's that club's just phenomenal.
Yeah.
And my old high school team, they use their facilities. And
Yeah.
No, it's just
a Paul Eiffel coach. They're well organised. I watched them against Suburbs. Didn't think they were that flash. Were they going full out? I don't know. Last week, but at least they're at home.
They're pretty formidable.
Yeah, they'll get a good crowd there.
Well, it'll be a good test for them, won't it? Going into National League, especially against the against the Auckland side. So, if they're going to be competing in National League next year, they'll get a bit of an inkling of where things sit for them. Yeah,
this year.
Or this year. Yes, that's right. The FIFA Women's World Cup and the semi-final last night, Spain beating Sweden 2-1. Sorry, Phil Thompson. That's one down. Newcastle win this weekend, he'll have a shocker. He's going to be ripping into me. But anyway, look, it was cat and mouse. I didn't watch all the match, but I watched the last 20 minutes, and it seemed like this is going to go to penalties, and all of a sudden 3 goals within about 5 minutes.
The problem Sweden had was that it's quite funny because Spain lost to Japan 4-0.
Yeah,
so it's quite a bit like Argentina lost to Saudi Arabia, then went on to win the World Cup. Sweden's coach was stating that he likes to press really high. So like they're 100 miles an hour, right from the word go, they're into it. And it's pretty hard to play like that for 90 minutes in a World Cup. But they are a very, very fit side. But I thought Spain deserved to win.
Yeah.
And they finally scored in the end, and then Sweden equalised, and then that girl got that screamer at the end. So
that was a beautiful one.
I think the better team won.
Yeah.
The stats say that. And good on them.
When I came into it, it looked as though Sweden was sitting back a bit. They were quite cautious. And in actual fact, Spain, I thought, were playing some nice football, and they seemed to be doing most of the attacking.
Typical Spanish side, like to pass and move. They really recycle the ball quickly. They get it forward. They just look after the ball a lot, probably better than Sweden. But there was nothing in it, to be fair.
So then what comes out of this semi-final is the story about a year ago where a lot of the Spanish players said they wouldn't play for the coach and pulled out of the Spanish side. So a lot of their top players would not play for this coach.
Yeah.
Here he is in a World Cup, final. So, what does that say? Does that say that perhaps the culture of Spain, because Spain have never been here before, so some of these top players running the show, and perhaps the coach was challenging a few of them. I don't know, but he's taken the players he does have, and obviously with the backing of the Spain Association, to a World Cup final.
Yeah. Well, who likes player power? No one. So you got to you have to stick by your coach.
Yeah.
federation, international governing body of country is going to listen to the players. If the players turned around and said to Gareth, we don't want Gareth Southgate as coach. It's wrong. So I don't know.
Interesting. Don't know what went on there. So anyway, tonight, 10 o'clock, Australia versus England. Can the Matildas do it?
I would like to think so. I mean, the cool thing with this Women's World Cup is nothing's been guaranteed.
No.
Great tournament.
Who would have thought Australia would be there to be in a semi-final?
Yeah.
Who would have picked that? At the very start of the tournament? Would any of us pick Australia be in the semi-final?
Well, actually, Slotsy said, watch out for the Aussies because they have that home support.
And Skippy said that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
England haven't got Lauren James. She's been suspended. England, I think they've been a bit lucky. Do they play Nigeria?
Yes. England, you mean?
Yeah, they were lucky to win that, but the girl got sent off. Nigeria weren't too smart about that when they went out, had an extra player. They beat Colombia 2-1 at the weekend. Well, that was probably the best side of the draw for them, to be honest. Aussie have done it tough. They had penalty shootout against France, who were one of the favourite sides.
They've earned it.
They have earned it. Yeah. And now they've got that Sam Kerr back.
Will she start?
Geordie, she'll start tonight. This is it. So, yeah, it'll be interesting. Well, time we read this, we'll know the result. So,
and that one of us is right.
Yeah, that's right. And the thing, I actually thought against Colombia, England started to show some classy football. The class of the players started to come out just on the football, their passing, their attacking play, which is strange to say for England, but I just thought they were a class above. I just wonder whether England's now just starting to hit their straps and, home support, great battlers, never say die. That's the Aussies, but I just wonder whether England's got a little bit too much.
Well, they'd be favourites, wouldn't they? Surely.
Yeah, you'd have to say
I think
so.
Obviously, the odds will be on England.
Yeah,
but I don't think anything's guaranteed in that game.
No,
I'd have to work for it.
No, they're talking about on the radio this morning. They're talking about penalties. That's could be one of those 132-minute games. Classic. Anyway.
You're with Football Focus, and our special guest is Phil Smith from the Golden Bay Football Club. And tell us a little bit about your background, Phil. Where do you hail from? And have you always played the round ball game? Or
Yeah. So football for me started. Hell, I'd have been 3 or 4 down in Christchurch for Shamrock, which is now FC 2011. So my parents were always involved with the football club there. My mum was secretary of the club there, and my dad was part of the committee and junior convener. And I think I just started playing football, and I just loved it so much. That's all I'm trying to bring back to Golden Bay football and to the region is what I remember it 20, 30 years ago is on a Saturday, the football club was the hub for the community.
Yeah.
Everyone would be at the club rooms. If you had an away game, you come back to the club rooms. You'd hang out with the opposition for a little bit. You'll come back. We had the seniors hanging out with the juniors hanging out for the senior games. And, the kitchen would be running, the bar would be flowing. And just, it was so many people there at the Riccarton Domain. And, I just really loved football and sort of turned into an accidental goalkeeper and keep going.
So when did you move to the Golden Bay?
So I've been living in Golden Bay 5 or 6 years now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and absolutely love it there. The people are like with dairy farming. Like I've shifted around the country quite a bit and seen a bit of the country, and Golden Bay is just uniquely different. It's got the most supportive community, and
it's a great spot.
It's very fiddly. There's so many different types of people there with all their different sort of beliefs and everything. And it is a melting pot. But everyone really does support each other. And it was just so refreshing to see it.
So tell us, obviously, because you enjoy your football, you got involved with the Golden Bay Football Club. So tell us about the club and the culture and the people.
Again, I think it's for me, I started 3 years ago and didn't even we lived there for a year and didn't even realize there was a football club there. And I've sort of been away from football for 20 odd years. I played the odd game here and there just to sort of keep my toes in it, but still be kind of like screw football.
Yeah.
And it was going back coaching, and I thought, well, having a daughter really changed my life.
Right.
and I want her to have the same sort of opportunities I got given playing football. So went to coach the women's team, and I loved it. I loved coaching them. They changed my life as well. They showed me what I was capable of doing as a coach, and how coaching is like you'd see it as well. You're not just coaching football; you're coaching them to be better people, to have more confidence in themselves, to push them to their limits, to show them that actually you are a lot better than you think you are, and it's just so rewarding. And then it was sort of looking around at the football club and thinking, well, righty, I'll jump on the committee. I didn't really want to start off with, because I saw my parents on committees, and I remember them coming home from committee meetings. So I thought, no, bugger that, I'm staying away from them. And
but it's interesting what you said about the committee meetings, and we talk about the meetings we have here that go on for about 2 hours. And
bro, you should join us at the presidency.
No, well, I like your structure.
Yeah,
45 minutes.
Yeah,
itemize each thing. 10 minutes on that, 10 minutes on that.
So what we do is we have people that are really into senior football, women's and men's. We don't really categorize it in Golden Bay now. Senior football.
Yeah.
And the men help the ball out. Women are there with the men. And yeah, it's all just one. And if you're interested in senior football, jump on the committee, and that's all you have to deal with.
Yeah.
If you're interested in junior and youth football, then that's what you're dealing with. You don't have to deal with this other stuff. And so it's more streamlined. We come together every second month, not every month, and we go over what's happening, what's going to be happening. And it's more now running in a way that we're sort of focusing on next season more than this season. So we're keeping ahead of the arch. And I don't want to lose volunteers. They're so precious. They're the biggest resource we have. And in a region where there's, the same people that I've seen in the last 3 years, it's always the same people.
Yeah. So the recreation centre there, that's a job share with the community, the Tākaka Rugby Club.
Yeah, so the Tākaka Rugby Club, they've been fantastic this year supporting us, and vice versa. If they've needed our dressing rooms while we've been away, then go for it. And like last year, if we needed to use their fields while our lights were out, go for it. The Rec Park Centre itself is like, it's still in its infancy, and it's still kind of like a trial and error in some things, but for the most part, like, it's pretty nailed now. Like it's a really great facility. The stadium is just always in use.
Yeah.
If anything, we need 2 or 3 more stadiums. And I think that's what's really awesome about Golden Bay, is just it's so free range. The kids are just always doing something.
Now, is the old grandstand still there? I just wanted to talk because it's been there for years. There's a lot of conjecture
about taking it away.
It's a heritage building, isn't it?
Jesus.
Sorry, I just
This is a hot topic, and
it's contentious.
There was a whole thing about it was going to be taken away.
Yeah.
This was before I moved to Golden Bay, so I really don't get dragged into this argument too much.
Sorry. Well, we can change the subject. So we'll go back to junior kids.
I think the grandstand is, it's there now.
Yeah.
It was a huge rebuild, huge cost.
So it's been redone.
It was meant to be bringing it back to what it was like. But once they sort of started taking nuts and bolts apart, found out the foundation was pretty well knackered, that needed redoing. The budget sort of just went up and up and up.
Okay.
And so it got quite controversial.
Sorry,
I just know that if I actually say something wrong like this, then one group or the other are going to be like, this should have happened, and no, it shouldn't have happened.
And the other problem I had, well, it's not a problem. We played over there 2 years ago against Golden Bay, and
I remember that game.
Yeah,
that was our first season in Div 1.
You put a barbecue in the middle of the pitch and that sort of thing. But just outside, you had rugby field and a rugby field. It's like, how many? I've always thought, well, one rugby field, but you got a lot of senior teams. You got more teams than the rugby club.
Yep.
And you've always been trying to get that pitch beside. Has that ever happened, or was that just still?
I think like rugby need that. They need their 2 fields.
That's all good.
Yeah. There was talk of how we could better do it, because we do, like, the club's grown phenomenally, from 130 to well over 300 members.
Wow.
And field space is a huge issue for us. I'm certainly not going to go to Tākaka Rugby and say, hey, we need one of your fields because we're bigger.
No.
And, they've put a lot into the Rec Park facility as well.
Yep.
And I think like we play up there for the Masters tournament,
Mm.
and they're definitely more suited for rugby fields. We look after our fields pretty well now. We're looking at different options for expanding fields, with working with schools, working with the AMP Society for more land.
Mm-hmm.
Do we want our own club rooms? That was something that was brought up in our strategy meeting, is that maybe we need to have our own club rooms to have that. I mean, the biggest thing that we've been told is that, it's hard to use the Rec Park Centre when they're so far away from our fields. And I mean, that's certainly something that will be a discussion for Golden Bay football, I would say, for the ages. But no, the Rec Park Centre is great facilities.
Yeah.
It would, I mean, ideally, I would love to have a field up the top there and right next to the club rooms, but realistically, that's not going to happen.
It's rugby.
It's rugby's. And, at the end of the day, we have a lot more people playing football. Rugby have a lot more support. So, they have a rugby game there that's packed. People,
Well, no, it was that day they played Ree Walker, I think. It was a big crowd there.
Yeah. And you get like Taka Rugby versus Collingwood Rugby. And those games,
So
they're physical.
So the current model of Nelson football, because I admire you guys coming over week in, week out. I know you've had your difficulties this year with teams defaulting, and it's that hill again. But are you happy with the current setup of the model from Nelson Bay's football run?
Oh, I think I'm worried about the future of it, in the sense of, like, we've got some really great people at the moment that are helping with this region's football. The Stu Reeds, Stu is an amazing guy. Getting grinded down, he does so much for this region that people don't even know about. Who's there to sort of step in once he goes? Like, where are those next Stu Reeds coming from? The referees have always been a big thing. And it's not quantity over quality we need quality referees as well. And I think we need to target more youth level. Under 17s, I think, need talking about. Women's football, I think that's always going to be a huge issue until we get it right at the youth level. And once we got a good youth girls football structure, then women's football can grow. Because I think it's pretty rough to say, hey, women, come over here and play women's football when they've never played it before. And then, you've got mums that are looking after their kids while their partners are playing rugby or football or whatever. So, I mean, the future, I think, is definitely a hot topic. I think we've gone from having 5 divisions to 4 divisions of men. Even if you look at the table, like the top tier of Division 1 looks really good. The middle is always, and it's like that everywhere. But at the same time, you don't want the likes of Loco to sort of feel crap because they've played a whole season and it's just been a grind for them and whatnot. And
no, it's got to be horses for courses. You've got to want to be enjoying your football.
Yeah, like at the end of the day, we are grassroots football.
Yeah.
And generally people sign up to play football for fun. And we've got to be able to cater for everyone, whether it's football because you want to play that competitive level, get up to being in the Southern League team, or whether you want to play football because it's just a social thing that you want to do. We've got to be able to cater for all. And it's a really hard thing. The one thing I think is a positive is the size of our region, where we are small. For the most part, all the presidents talk to each other really well and get along. And, if something comes up, deal with it internally, and that's cool.
Well, that's a step forward.
Yeah.
Oh man, I remember the very first president's meeting I went to. Couldn't agree on the time of day.
No.
It was incredible. It was just
Yeah, I think there's it's interesting, that competitive spirit between the clubs. It's good to have, but I think it sometimes went all the way down, into the depths of administration. Sometimes,
I just love football.
But what opens
so much.
what opens that up is when you communicate more. And I'm generalising there because I'm sure a lot of people in the past, were able to sort things out. But the fact that they're regularly meeting now, at least getting the chat happening is I think it's a big important
getting
part.
an agreement in place when things are talked about that can take a wee while because everyone's got a different opinion, and that's fine. You're allowed different opinions, but at the end of the day, I don't want to be stuck in a room for 3 hours going around in circles about something where it's like,
Someone's got to make a decision.
we're going to drive
Well,
home.
you've got to have one chief, I think. That's the problem we haven't got at the moment. We're sort of working with, mainly we've got Stu Reed and Val there, and You got
Well, and I don't want to
you got
compare.
the presidents who that's how we get things done.
And there's some pretty big personalities.
Well, there are some pretty big egos here, son. Don't you worry about that.
And I don't want to, compare with rugby, but the rugby model is that the Tasman Rugby Union pretty much runs rugby. So you've got a body that runs it, but they still have like an advisory board, which was pretty much the old union, if you like, where the development officers and probably the presidents in the older days get together to discuss what the state of rugby is about and suggestions for the draw. And then that gets fed back to the union. It's the union that puts it in place.
Yeah.
And so perhaps the clash of heads are there because the union has some strong ideas. So what's probably missing is that although, we do have representation and operation representation, but what some of the guests have said is that we're missing that body that we used to have, the governance body to say, the decision is this, and this is where we're moving forward.
We do have that with that working group. That kind of is that.
Yeah,
that board or whatever you want to call it, where we deal with operational matters. Not sort of too much in depth because we don't want to step on mainland football's toes.
Yeah,
but they're like it's the simple things of how's the structure of the competition going to be? Is it going to be 4 divisions of 8? And do we move this team down to the end or whatever? And it's kind of I think mainland football have done really well with this region in so many different areas, and in some areas they haven't. And Mard will put his hand up to say that as well. He will know that yep, we've done really well in these areas, not so much in these areas. They do give us a lot of rope to say,
sort it.
Go run yourselves. If they have to step in, then I think we've failed. And I think initially, from my understanding, because I wasn't here under the old Nelson Bays Football or Tasman United, is that when all that folded and mainland came in, it was kind of like, well, they're going to make everything better. And it might not have lived up to those expectations.
Well, yeah, but in a way, it was a needs must. Because
there'd be no football.
Because actually there was no one there. Nicole was doing her best, being overworked. Doing a job that wasn't capable for one person. So in a way, it was a needs must. And I guess the goal would be that we go back to having our own governing body. But I mean, that's
at the moment it's the presidents is basically the working group.
Yeah.
Sometimes it doesn't have to be the actual president of that club that needs to be.
No. I think
it can be someone that's a bit more.
Only if some bullshit.
I'm not.
Some stuff has happened.
Yeah.
Where it's like our presidents, Cherie will send out an email, and Cherie being Cherie, who's just like the enforcer of this region now, she'll send an email out being all presidents must be at this meeting. And when you get that email, it's like, oh, here we go. And like end of last year, we had Martin come up from Christchurch, and he sort of poked a really big stick at us. And we deserved it. I think as presidents, we focus too much on the internal politics of another club more than what we do football in this region. And I mean, for me personally, at the start of the season, Martin came up and was doing a presentation on what mainland football's kind of strategy was this year. And he said 2 words which stuck in my head: positive experiences. And that's not just for the members, that's for everyone. So you've got to make sure coaching your team that you're having a good time doing it.
Well, that's right.
Otherwise, you're not going to want to do it.
No, exactly.
And so for me this year, that was the one thing that I took away, is that we need to make sure everyone's having fun. That includes going to these working group meetings and having fun at that meeting where it's actually good to catch up with everyone.
Yeah.
And I think we have come a long way in a working group setting. And I think there's still a lot more.
Well, this year hasn't been perfect, but it's all about righting the rights and righting the wrongs and make sure we learn from it. And
I think it's been a lot better than last season. Like last season, there's just less drama. There's less off-field drama. Like, oh, this person was playing this team, and
but the only problem that I had from this year was the defaults.
Yeah,
I don't like teams defaulting,
no.
And I just think because of the structure wasn't right, that's why we had it. But that's teams saying
it's hard going to the coaches all the time saying, "Oh, sorry, you don't have a game this week because this team's defaulted." And I think last year the Goats had 9 games in total last season.
Is that all?
That's all. They're paying the same price.
Yeah, no, it's not good enough.
We're still having to pay those affiliation fees for X amount of rounds. But, like for me, I'm quite protective in that sense because they deserve the games. They're paying for the games. We're supposed to be able to provide football. And sometimes it's just a matter of calling us up and say, hey, look, we've only got 10 or we've only got 9. Sweet, we'll work something out.
Oh, exactly.
We've
just
had teams come over with just the bare minimum, and we've topped them up with players from another team.
Yeah.
Like we just want to play football. We're not
Dead right.
For the most part, like we're not really that competitive where we're going to try and win leagues or whatever. Like obviously we want the wins, but we just want to play football for the most part and just have fun and keep it cool. The Goats really, I mean, they're still hoping there's a way they can get to Division 1, which is really cool. Like they were so hungry for that this year, and those lads did so amazing.
Well, they got second this year,
Yeah.
and I know for a fact the Seals want to go down. Maybe Loco Seals down, Carini and Golden Bay up.
Well, I heard a rumor that Tahuna might be going into the Masters, so they might look at pulling the first div out, which I think will be a shame after seeing how well they did this season. Like,
Who?
that's the thing. Like, we don't know until next season.
No, that's right. Depends who turns up. Hey, Phil, look, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on here, mate. It's
been great to be here.
It's great to meet you and giving us some insight on what's happening with the Golden Bay Club. Good luck with the Cup Final tournament you've got coming
Looking forward to it. Looking forward to
should be a great time, and I'm sure everyone's looking forward to the hospitality in Golden Bay.
Well, we sort of
which
done
is
it
famous.
We're sharing the love with this, so we've actually got a new organisation coming in to run the kitchen. So it's like the biggest thing for a Golden Bay Football Club, which I think's made a difference, is we're supporting our community. So something like this comes up, radio. There's a new organisation, the Areri Childcare and Education Charity, and they're trying to get funding and everything together to build a new ECE out at Collingwood. And sweet, here we go. Get your name out there, raise some money, do what you can, and it's just us giving back to the community as well. And I think that's where clubs can head, is what can we give back to our community? And it's just simple things like that I think make the huge difference.
Well, it's fantastic to have you here, mate. And we wish you all the best of luck for the rest of the season. And, of course, going into next year, I hear maybe you might be going off to other pastures.
Yeah.
Is that right?
So I'll be playing on a Friday night at 6:45 for Narangba Eagles for their over 35s. Yes, we're finishing up farming over in Golden Bay and moving over to Brisbane. So it's just warmer and my bones are colder.
So not farming over there?
No, I do not want to touch another cow again in my life.
You might be a surf lifesaver instead, or something of that nature.
Just figure. I would need the wet towels thrown over me.
Oh, well, look, we wish you all the best, and I'm sure you're going to be dearly missed. And but Golden Bay will still forge ahead. They sound as though their membership's growing all the time, and it's great to see you guys involved so heavily. And we look forward to talking more to Golden Bay in the future.
Oh, totally. You'll still hear from us.
Great, excellent. Keep the comments coming. Thanks, Bridie.
No worries.
Is that it for you, pretty much, or have you got more football coming up?
No. We're just the club's deciding where we go for the playoffs.
Yes.
Which is not till it's a funny setup because there only can be one team that goes in.
Yes.
And of course, there's Football South, and so there can only be one team from mainland. And of course, there's Football South. So if we go for the South Island League, we have to play the winner of the local league down there, which I believe is University's home and away. The winner of that then has to play the winner of the Dunedin to get into the Diamond League. So, bit of water under the bridge to go. We'll just see what happens. But Phil was messaging me this morning, saying, looks like we're quite keen, but those games won't be till 9th or September. Right. So
okay.
So we'll have to keep boxing on.
Isn't it cool just to have that opportunity, though?
Yeah, well, I think so. I just think another team in the South Island League should be great. It's a pathway. It's going to be more competitive. I think it'll make football better. Okay, it might take it away with decent players locally, but it'll bring players to the region.
Exactly. There's always the ripple effect.
Mate, do it. Let's do it. And so hopefully that will happen, and we'll see what happens.
All right, we'll keep you up to date. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
No worries.
Thank you to our listeners. Keep those comments coming. We know we'll hear from Golden Bay, and we'll talk to you again next week.
What's on, where, and when? It's the Talk of Nelson. Talk Nelson Radio.